In today's video, we're going to go over the current weapon banner. I know I'm a couple days late, but forgive me. I've been busy with Nahida's story quest as well as the Archon quest. Doesn't matter. Today we're going to go over the 5-star weapons in the banner to see if they're worth pulling or not, to see what characters can utilize these weapons. And we'll go over some of the 4 stars as well, although we have seen these quite a bit in previous banners, so they're going to be kind of short. We have 1,000 Floating Dreams, which is a catalyst. It has a substat of Elemental Mastery, and I did go over this weapon effect in a previous Nahida video, but let's go over it again. 1,000 Knights Dawn Song. Party members other than the equipping character will provide the character with buffs based on whether their elemental type is the same as the latter or not. If their elemental types are the same, increase their Elemental Mastery by 32. If not, increase the equipping character's damage bonus from their elemental type by 10%. Each of the aforementioned effects can have up to 3 stacks. Additionally, all nearby party members other than the equipping character will have their elemental mastery increased by 40. Multiple such effects from multiple such weapons can stack. Is this a weapon you absolutely need to get for Nahida? No. There are plenty of catalyst weapons that also have elemental mastery substat. So this is a very fancy substick, or excuse me, weapon stat stick for Nahida. It is really good. It does give you a lot of elemental mastery, which is what she wants. She will also get additional elemental mastery, but under a weird condition. So this is very similar to the Gilded Dreams artifact set, where they will either gain elemental mastery or damage bonus depending on the types of the element types of the characters on your team. If they're the same, meaning if you're using this for Nahida and you have another Dendro on your team, you're going to get an additional 32 elemental mastery. Keep in mind that this is also going to stack with the Dendro resonance buff, which also gives you even more elemental mastery. However, that's not really how you would build a team like Nahida. As we've kind of learned, her burst has a really short cost, or a small cost, excuse me, and she gets it pretty frequently, especially if you're going up against groups of enemies. So she doesn't really need a second Dendro. She applies a lot of Dendro herself. I read this effect as earlier, but I made a mistake on reading it, so I didn't understand. I misread the part where it says nearby party members other than the equipping character will have their EM increased by 40. So this will not apply to Nahida herself. This will apply to your other party members, which is still good. I mean, it's a nice little team buff. If you're wondering, okay, you're saying that this weapon's kind of whatever for Nahida, what are some good alternatives? Well, there's plenty. You can use the, maybe not the best option right off the bat, but the Sacrificial Fragments weapon has Elemental Mastery as its substat. The passive won't really give you much value, but that's fine. I mean, you just want to give Nahida as much Elemental Mastery as you can. Another option will be the Mappa Mare. I'm not sure if I said that right. This also gives you Elemental Mastery as a secondary stat, and the passive for this weapon is actually something you can take advantage of. And considering this is a 4-star weapon, getting a Refinement 5 version of it is not the craziest thing in the world to go for it, or to do. The Widsith, or the what is it, Solar Pearl, or the I'm sorry, the Black Cliff Agate, since both of those weapons are pretty free-to-play friendly and they give her a bunch of crit damage if you want to go that route. There's even a 3-star weapon that will be fine for Nahida. It's called the Magic Guide. This is a 3-star weapon that also has Elemental Mastery as a substat, and a very basic weapon passive that increases damage taken from Hydro and Electro, I believe. You can just slap that on. Again, it also gives Elemental Mastery as a substat, so that's a decent option, especially if you don't have any of the 4 stars mentioned, or a 5-star Catalyst weapon. Now, is this weapon going to be good for any other character other than Nahida? It can be, I suppose. Like, you can slap this on... the first character that comes to mind, of course, is Sucrose, right? Because Sucrose wants a ton of Elemental Mastery. However, Sucrose already has a lot of good weapons for her already, such as the Sacrificial Fragments or Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers, if you want to make her more of a support buffing character. So there's no really good reason to pull for this for someone like Sucrose. Maybe someone like Yanfei if you're doing a lot of Vaporize with her, but It's hard to justify using it on other characters just because there are so many other good options that are available already for 4-star options for free-to-play players. Heizo is probably another character that comes to mind again when we think of elemental mastery needs. This would be a pretty good weapon for him, especially if you go hard on investing his elemental mastery. But again, not necessary. It's not going to be best in slot, at least I don't think so. There are plenty of good 5-star options or 4-star options for most Catalyst users, and the 1,000 Floating Dreams, as fancy as it looks, it's probably not something you need. Next up, we have the Thundering Pulse, which is Yoimiya's signature weapon, as she is having her rerun alongside Nahida. This bow has crit damage as a substat, and I recently reviewed this weapon on a previous video because Yoimiya just had a rerun earlier, but let's go over the effect again. So the effect is called Rule by Thunder, and it will straight up increase your attack by 20%. And it will grant the Might of the Thunder emblem at stack levels 1, 2, and 3, which will increase your normal attack damage by 12, 24, and 40%. So you gain stacks, these Thunder Emblem stacks, for doing 3 things. 1 is to hit an enemy with normal attack damage. 2 is to do your elemental skill. And the third one is to have less than 100% energy, basically don't have your burst. And each stack is calculated independently. So obviously you can see why this is great for Yoimiya. However, this can be a great stat stick for a lot of bow users as well. Like, obviously, a character like Ganyu can't take advantage of the passive, or at least, you know, full value of the passive, because you will still get some stacks, but you're not going to be using normal attack damage on Ganyu. However, getting a lot of crit damage is still really good for her. It can be great for a lot of characters as well. If you're doing a DPS, Amber can use it. I've already mentioned Ganyu. If you're doing, if even Fischl could take advantage of this, it'll free up some stats for you if you want to go on crit rate for more balance or focus more on attack percentage. And apparently it's really good for Alloy, which isn't saying much about the character, but hey, if you want a good weapon for any of the 2 Alloy users out there, Thundering Pulse is the way to go, I suppose. But yeah, this is a weapon that I think is really solid, obviously, for Yoimiya. But if you are using normal attacks on other archer characters, for example, you can do like a machine gun fish build, and this will be a great weapon for that playstyle. But it's also, like I said, just a very strong stat stick. It gives you a lot of crit damage as a substat, and you still get that straight up 20% increase to your attack just off the bat right there. You know, if you don't need the stacks for the normal attack damage increase, then you don't have to even worry about it, and just say it's a 5-star bow that gives you crit damage and 20% more attack. All right, next up we have the Flute. So the weapon effect, well, it has a substat of attack percentage, which is but let's look at the weapon effect. It makes normal or charge attacks grant a harmonic on hits, gaining 5 harmonic triggers, the power of music, and deals 100% of your attack damage to surrounding opponents. Harmonics last up to 30 seconds, and a maximum of 1 can be gained every 0.5. This is a very average weapon. It could be used on several different characters. If you want to use it on a main DPS, you could, or as well as some sub DPS for the stats, but again, very, very average, maybe even below average at this point, with better 4-star weapons, depending on the character you're trying to build. Like, I wouldn't put this on Keqing. I'd rather get like a Black Cliff sword or something else, which is a much better 4-star free-to-play weapon. So very kind of, you know, I would really use that on anyone, honestly, unless you're new. Let's quickly go over Sacrificial, Greatsword, and the Favonius Lance. These weapons are always in the, these weapons are frequently in the banner because they all do the same thing. If you see anything with the Sacrificial name in it, basically it has a chance to reset your elemental skill cooldown, excuse me. And you can easily get this to refinement 5 to have a higher chance. It does have energy recharge as its subset. There are a few characters that will appreciate this, like Sayu. Again, it's an okay weapon for support Claymore users, and there isn't too many of them. Favonius Lance, again, all these weapons in the set have the same effect. So every time you do a crit hit, you have a chance to generate additional elemental particles. At refinement 5, this is basically guaranteed every time you crit. It makes it important to build crit rate for the character that's using the Favonius Lance so that this effect can happen consistently. That being said, it's good on, again, support characters. Yunjin will appreciate this. Another good character that comes to mind for the Favonius Lance is Toma. Can't really think of any like supports at the moment, but I mean, for the few polearm supports, Favonius Lance is a decent option. Or moving on, we have the Widsith. This is arguably probably the best 4-star weapon on this banner. Simply because it can be used with a lot of different characters. It provides crit damage as a substat, making it great for either a main DPS or a sub DPS character. I use this on my Yaimiko actually, who's both a sub DPS, who can be played both as a sub DPS or a main if you prefer to do it that way. Basically, when the character takes the field, they'll get a random effect. There's 3 of them. So you'll either get an effect that increases your attack by 60%, another effect which will grant 48% increased elemental damage, or another effect that increases your elemental mastery by 240. You can only get one of these 3 effects every 30 seconds. It's random which one it is. I believe if you look at the actual weapon effect and you see like the theme or the note that pops up, you'll know which one it is. I don't really know musical notes, so it's whatever to me, but basically, it just means more damage for that character. Again, I use this on my Yaimiko. You can use this on a Yan Fei is also a good option for this. But yeah, this is a really good weapon. Again, a lot of people can use this. And last but not least, we have the Rust, which I feel like was in the weapon banner recently. Again, very, very simple effect. It'll increase your normal attack damage at the cost of decreasing your charge attack damage. For those of you that have Yoimiya but were unlucky enough or couldn't afford the Thundering Pulse on the weapon banner, the Rust is a great secondary option. It does give you just attack percentage as a substat, which is okay. You will have to build up your crit rate and crit damage on your artifacts accordingly. But this is still a really strong weapon, and it's easy to refinement 5 it. You'll get a huge increase to normal attack damage just straight up. And you won't have a downside because you shouldn't be using Yoimiya's charge attack damage either. This weapon's also okay on other characters. Again, Machine Gun Fischl build comes to mind, or any rapid firing normal attack bow characters that you plan on using. I suppose you could use this on Child, who's gonna get his rerun in the next banner, but I don't recommend it. It's an okay weapon, but there are better 4-star options out there. I would definitely consider using a Blackcliff Warbow instead, because it gives you crit damage, or a Viridescent Hunt if you're a low spender and you buy the Battle Pass. Also a decent 4-star option. You also have Prototype Crescent if you want something that you can just craft. Alright, so that's gonna do it for this weapon banner. Unfortunately, it does seem kind of meh. Other than the Thundering Pulse, and unfortunately 1,000 Floating Dreams just isn't, like, it's a good weapon for Nahida, but it's definitely not crazy broken as she is. She's like, if you have Nahida and you pulled for her, you're not missing out by not pulling for her weapon. There are plenty of ways to get extra elemental mastery for her on other weapons and just on her artifacts as well. So my advice would be just to save up for the next banner, because I think that one's going to be a lot better, considering both 5 stars are going to be the Polar Star and the Kagura's Verity. Kagura's Verity is also really good, not just for Yaimiko, but plenty of characters as well, because it does the same thing that the Thundering Pulse does. While most characters won't be able to take advantage of the elemental or the weapon's skill, It does just straight up give you a lot of damage and crit damage as a substat, so Kagura's Verity is still a good weapon for a lot of Catalyst DPS users. And with that being said, that's going to do it for me for this weapon banner review. Let me know if you guys decide to pull on this banner, or if there's something I missed when it comes to characters that can take advantage of the Thundering Pulse or the 1,000 Floating Dreams. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next video.